Yeah, this is Open Mind Entertainment TV. I'm your host, Ghetto Shakes, where we have entertainment, fashion, music, and TV all in one. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You know I'm into a lot of different things. I don't want to get into it on camera, but you've actually helped me, and you actually supported me in functions and things that I was doing with the modeling agency, and you always just lended a hand. You know, usually some other people that I know would just hang the phone up or say, "Oh, please, you don't know what you're doing," but you actually opened your heart and said, "You know, right, I'm gonna help you."
It's not quite as much as opening my heart as I got space here at the gallery. And one of the important things is what people need most is space to do what they need to do. They don't need you to do nothing for them, but they need the ability to do it for themselves. So since I got this art gallery space out there and somebody's trying to do something, you know, if you're along your way, I'll rent it to you. But if you're just starting out and you're trying to do something and you really believe in it, a lot of times I will say, well, you can use the space for a few hours to try to get your thing off. And that's what I offered to you when you asked me. I said, man, you can come do your thing at my crib because I got the space for you. And once you get the space, then you can do that. And then sometimes they will lend your name to it. I say, yeah, all right, depending on what it is, I might lend my name to it. But, you know, you got to help each other. You can't give nobody something, but you can give them the tools so they can build something themselves. So if I got some space, that's it, you know. Or if I can do something.
Well, you know, we ain't finished with that modeling agency. You know, we sat it down for a while.
I know you did, man, but you're doing this, and that's what I love about you. You're always moving something forward. You know what I'm saying? And that's an important thing. You know, sometimes things don't work right at the moment that you're doing it, but you got to keep doing something. You can't just sit down like, you can't do that.
Exactly.
You can't do that. You can't bury your head in the sand. You got to figure out something else to do.
Exactly. What can we expect from yourself, your brother Russell, and Rev Run as far as the Simmons brothers for 2008?
You know, I don't know what we're gonna do together. Like we always do our foundation's fundraiser together, and we do different things. Like next week, we're doing our children's Christmas party together. We'll be up on stage throwing toys out to the kids. We have like a couple hundred kids come to Irving Plaza. You know, we've had Puffy play Santa. We've had LL Cool J play Santa. Kanye West was playing an elf or some shit one year or something. Man, we had little Foxy Brown performing. You know, we always have something for the kids to see, and we get a lot of gifts and a lot of sponsorship for that. Target is our big sponsor, and we always have a lot of food and everything. So we always do that for the kids. You know, we come together a lot around stuff that we do for the community. You know, we each got our different projects. You know, I don't expect Russell to be at my art shows. You know, I certainly ain't going out to Magic with him, you know, look at no clothes or nothing like that. You know, I'll be on Run Rev's show a couple of times this year, you know, but you know, we come together mostly as family, not as projects. The only real projects we do together is stuff that involves us helping the community. You know, I ain't trying to get in Russell's businesses.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And Red Run and Russell are tied together. Russell produces that TV show, but they've always been tied together through hip hop.
Yes.
And so, you know, and Russell and Rev have always supported my stuff for the community. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And even more than supported, but you know, so, you know, we come together like that, but mostly we come together as family.
It's family.
You know what I'm saying? We ain't trying to be up in each other's projects, you know?
Well, speaking of family, how many children do you have?
Me?
Yes.
I only got one.
Oh.
Yeah, I only got one, man. Thank God, because that's all I could afford.
Well, I mean, we know each other, but I thought you had more than one, at least.
Nah, I got my son's 30 years old, brother.
Whoa.
He got a little store down in the Lower East Side on Stanton Street called Lolly, where him and his girl have reconditioned vintage clothes, and they cut them and redo them. And one day they got leather goods and handbags that they design and this, that, and the other. And they're standing right off of Allen Street. And so he doing all right. He ain't in my pocket no more. I love that. You know what I'm saying? And him and Russell get together on a little business stuff here and there in the clothing type of thing. But I got one kid. Run got 6 now with the new baby. Yeah. And you know, Russell's 2 little darlings.
Yes.
You know, Mingling and Aoki. And so, you know, I'm more of an uncle than a father anymore, you know. You know, I'm a single man, you know.
That's right. Let it be known.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm a single man. I'm not trying to have a whole bunch of kids running around out here that I ain't taking the time to be with the father.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And at my age, I don't know if I want to do that again. Bringing up Jamel was hard enough. I swear to God, that boy, he was trying to be rough. You know, he was in the, you know, he had a rap group back in the day called the Flatliners.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, the thing in the MTV video, he's hanging by a noose rapping and whatnot.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and then, but also his gang was the Flatliners out there in Bed-Stuy. So, you know, he came through that. You know, he ain't do no jail time, and and I pray to God that he didn't get hurt and didn't hurt nobody.
Exactly.
That I know of. And so, no, seriously. And so then he grew up to be a man. And that's a job, to grow people up so they correct. And so, you know, I wasn't the kind of guy that I wanted the responsibility, because I knew it was a responsibility. It ain't just laying down and getting up. It's a responsibility when you got children out here, and you got to take care of them. And so I wasn't trying to have a child with everybody, you know, that I dated or went out with, or that was pretty. We make a pretty kid together. Yeah, well, so, you know, so what? You know.
What kind of advice can you give all those brothers and sisters that are incarcerated, that are about to come home into this world that we're in right now?
You know, this is a little known fact, or it might be a wide known fact. It ain't a hidden fact. You know, I did a bid when I was in college. I got knocked under the brand new Rockefeller law. I got one of them life sentences for, you know, illegal contraband, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, you know.
And Russell used to come up and visit me like, me and my brother's in jail. But anyway, Joey was too young. He was like 6 or 7. We didn't want him to come up to see his nigga in jail. But anyway, you coming out. And there's a whole world here. There's a whole world out here to get into. It's real easy to get back into what you was into.
Exactly.
It's real easy to get back in the penitentiary too. It is not a hard job to commit a crime and go to jail. It really ain't. You know what I'm saying? A hard job is to look yourself in the face and say, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And how am I going to stay out of that penitentiary? And how am I going to help somebody other than trying to take something from somebody or try to give something to somebody that ain't going to be no good for them? You know what I'm saying? I know the street game. I've known it all my life. I know a lot of brothers who ain't make it through. You know? I know a couple of brothers who made it through, you know? And most of them niggas that was hustling, excuse my language, but most of them people that was hustling back then made all that money dead broke now, no prospects, no nothing. All they got is the old stories about how they had this when they was slinging this, and I was driving this, and I was doing this, that, there, and the other, blah, 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 blah. And you know, you go in any street corner, you gonna hear, you remember when we did this and when we did that. Yeah. Bunch of old men now standing on the corner with nothing, trying to borrow $1, get us some wine or something. And like you used to have this Cadillac or this whatever. Remember, I had all these bras. Now he ain't got a girl, he ain't got a dime, he ain't got nothing, because he ain't prepared himself for nothing in life.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Except for you trying to be a hard rock back then and trying to do something in and out of jail. Once you get about 45, your prospects are gone.
What do you think about Frank Lucas and with this whole American Gangster, you know, movie situation?
You know, I lived through that era. I was uptown during that era, and you know, and I idolized those boys, Frank and Nicky and all them. They was making the big money. They was doing all of that. They turned out to be snitches. You know, when the thing went down, when I went to jail, they asked me to tell. I wasn't telling on nobody. I told on myself. I copped out. That's right. So that's the only person I can speak for. I can speak for myself. I wasn't trying to do that 25 to life they was trying to give me. So, you cannot look at these men. All of this is like a history lesson. You know, this is what happened back then. You can't look to them as role models. You can't do. There are people who did what they thought they had to do, but they ruined so many lives.
They did. You
know, not even looking at how many lives the heroin killed, but how many lives it killed secondhand, because when they were selling the dope, that's when the AIDS hit. Mm-hmm. And everybody was messing with dope uptown, was shooting dope, and so inadvertently they helped kill a whole generation.
Which is actually supporting genocide.
They didn't know they was doing that. It wasn't their intention. Their intention was to make $1. And unfortunately, a lot of us believe the only way to make $1 is out there on that street.
Yeah, This is Ghetto Shakes, your host. I hope you enjoyed the show. Open Mind TV. Yeah, 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 Keep your mind open, keep your mind open, keep your mind open, open. Peace and blessings.